Congratulations on the purchase of your Casio keyboard. My name is Albert Margolis, and today I'm going to take you through the Rock House method of beginning keyboards, where you get free online lesson support. Go to the main menu of this DVD and we'll show you how to sign up for that. The program today is going to consist of all the musical things that you need to learn to be able to play with a band, and we're going to also show you how to navigate through this wonderful keyboard that you just bought. So sit back, relax. I'm going to play a little bit for you and enjoy the program. Hi, right now I want to lay a little bit of groundwork on you, because what we need to do is sort of set a few things in stone right now so that the rest of the program kind of falls into place. First, I'm going to basically give you the basic language. Very minimal music theory, very little bit of reading. In fact, no traditional reading involved here. This is going to be easy and this is going to be fun. Secondly, relax. Don't tighten up. If at any point through the program you feel a tension in here or in here, anywhere, stop right away. In fact, whatever you're doing, stop it right away and slow down. Because what's happening is you're probably going faster than your muscles can work at that particular point. As you progress with the program, you will be able to get faster and faster and faster and be able to play things at a much quicker tempo. But we have to start slow, and I'm going to reemphasize that throughout the program. And ultimately, have fun, experiment, explore, do things I don't show you, kind of go outside the box a little bit, because when it comes to music, there are no rules. Just enjoy yourself, and always, always, always listen to new music. The way to expand your mind and to expand your playing is to listen to new music, and make sure that you always go out and listen to live music and listen to bands and see what other people are doing and what they're bringing to the table. So now we're going to have some fun. Let's go on to the next chapter, and we'll see you there. Before we delve into this, there's a couple more things that I want to touch upon. I want to talk about the different types of keyboard instruments that are out there. First and foremost, there's the piano. Everybody's come to know that. It's what you have in your living room. It's big. It's acoustic. And acoustic means you don't have to plug it into anything. It makes a sound with a very physical nature, a hammer hitting a string on a soundboard. There's your piano. Then there are electric keyboard instruments. For instance, this. You plug it into a wall. There are electronic things going inside that help produce the tone. But within that, there are certain kinds of instruments, even within the electric realm, we should talk about. There's the organ. The organ would sound something like this. Probably familiar with that sound. A lot of rock and roll recordings, a lot of jazz, a lot of recordings that we've come up to know throughout the years have the organ in it. Very important. Third, there's the synthesizer. Synthesizer is an electronic instrument that synthesizes, that makes just about any kind of sound that you can think of out there. And I'm going to dial one up right now. That'd be the example of a synthesizer type sound. With this kind of instrument that I've got in front of me, it's a sample player. What that means is that people have actually gone out into the field and recorded samples of actual instruments, burned it onto a little computer chip, and you have the ability to play it back. It sounds very realistic. Most of what we encounter today in terms of synthesizers and keyboards are sample playing instruments. The other thing I want to talk about is all these different instruments tend to have different feels. If you ever play a piano, you notice it has a very mechanical and weighted action to it. You're going to play that differently than, let's say, something that is a keyboard or synthesizer kind of action that we have here. Just be aware of it. They're a little bit different. They're going to have different feels, and even within those, they're all different. All the weighted ones tend to feel slightly different, and all the synthesizer type tend to feel a little bit different. Also, another difference between them is that they all have different note amounts. Your typical synthesizer will have 61 notes. This particular one has 76, and a regular piano has 88. So that's a full-size keyboard. They're all going to come in different varieties, and nowadays with computer recording, there's even single octave and double octave keyboards that you can plug into your computer or also take away with you and perform with. Well, we're going to get into some really fun stuff now in the notes, and sit back, relax. We're going to come back and see you soon. Okay, let's get familiar with your keyboard instrument. What I'm going to talk about in this section is going to cover all the basics of knowing how to move around and maneuver with any keyboard instrument. First and foremost, let's try to find middle C. What is C? Well, if you look at the keyboard, it's basically broken down into sections of 2 black keys, 3 black keys, 2 black keys, 3 black keys, and a lot of white keys that just sort of span across the whole thing. Well, let's concentrate now on the section of 2 black keys that are together. What we're going to want to do is find any 2 black keys. Let's in fact even go to the middle section of the keyboard and then take the note that is directly to the left of the section of 2 black keys. Okay, let me go over that again. You find the 2 black keys that are in the middle and you find the note that is directly to the left of those 2 black keys. That would be your middle C. Very important because middle C is going to be the center primarily of where we do our exercises and where we do the program is going to center around this section of the keyboard. And so it's very important to find this so that things are where they're supposed to be. Now what happens as you go up the keyboard, you'll start with C, the next one is D, then there's E, F, and then G. Then a very interesting thing happens. It starts with A, B, C. Now if you look at these 2 notes, they look very similar. They're both to the left of the 2 black notes and they sound kind of the same. Well, we happen to have just gone up 8 notes. Those 8 notes are known as an octave. Oct coming from the number 8. Octaves are nice because you can sound them all over the keyboard, and you know what? There's C, everywhere is a C. Same thing if you want to do it with D, if you want to do it with E, you want to do it with F, that's totally fine. But those are all octaves, very important to know that. As you go up the keyboard, that pattern repeats. In other words, let's start with C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, all the way up. And the other interesting thing is the same coming down. But you didn't know that. C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. So if you look at a keyboard, it's really just little chunks of these 8 notes repeated over and repeated over. Actually, if you include the black notes, it's a total of 12. All of music comes down to those 12 notes. You can basically back up any piece of music that you've ever heard, in the Western world anyway, to those 12 notes. The other thing that you may need to know at this point is that with these black notes, what do you call them? Well, they have a couple of different names. I'm going to make it real easy. If we're here on the letter D, and you want to go to the next lowest to D, it's a D flat. If you want to go to the next highest from D, that's a D sharp. Well, D sharp, gee, well if I'm on E, and I go to the next lowest, wasn't that a D sharp? Yeah, it's also an E flat. Not to be confusing, but if you're going down, it's flat. If you're going up, it's sharp. That's all. So the black notes, the white notes, the octaves, and most importantly, middle C. The other thing I want to touch base with is your hand positions. Where do you place them on the keyboard? Well, we talked early on about being relaxed. It's utmost important. So you want to place them kind of there. No tension here, no tension here. I have a tendency to do this, okay? So, kind of roll your shoulders a little bit and just sort of place them nice and easy because you want to be relaxed as we go through these exercises. Also, you want to, in terms of where to place the fingers, I'm going to tell you something right now that may go against some of the training that I had early on. If it feels good, do it. In other words, wherever you want to place your fingers as long as you sound the right notes. You'll eventually find the easiest way to try it. Do it a couple of different ways, find out what feels the best, because at the end of the day you want to be able to just make sure you're sounding correct. Another thing that you're going to use while at the keyboard are pedals. I just happen to have one right here. This is what's known as a sustain pedal. And yes, it sustains the note. So if I play a chord and I press the pedal, normally it's on the floor and I'm using it with my feet, but for example here, I'm going to show it to you like this. You're going to hold it. Notice how the note rings out, or that chord rings out? When I don't press it down, it comes to an end. So sustain pedals are really useful when you're doing very big things. If you're holding a note and then you move down here to do something else and you want that note to ring so you can move your hand, it's kind of a way to get around and kind of a way to make things sound good. So I'm going to put it down here for now. Last but not least, your posture. We talked about being tight and relaxed. Well, one way to remain relaxed is to make sure you have a nice straight back and a very good chair when you're sitting. Therefore, when you're playing and you're moving around, there's no tightness. You want to have a nice, even, relaxed posture. Now we're going to talk about the basic building blocks of playing keyboards. It's really the chords. What is a chord? A chord is a combination of notes put together, and I'm going to play one for you. You've probably heard that sound before. What you're listening to is a C major chord. Remember we talked about note names a little while ago, and if you look at the bottom of this chord, it's a C. That's why it's called the C major chord. The way this thing is constructed is it's a C, 2 notes away, you add the E, and then 2 notes away, you add the G. That's the sound of a major chord. Now in the exercise that we're going to play a little bit later in this section, we're going to do this with our right hand. I'll show you what to do with the left hand later. But with chords, you can actually play them anywhere on the keyboard. They sound different, and depending on the context of what you're playing, you're going to want to put them in different parts of the keyboard. For instance, that sounds fine. When you move it down here, not so fine, maybe a little muddy. So you may not want to play chords down there. Up here, you can certainly play them. They start sounding thin, and in certain contexts, you're going to want to have that thinness if you want to maybe jump out in front of the band or that kind of a thing. You're going to want to play stuff up here. But for now, again, for this exercise, we're going to play everything kind of in the middle. That's why we started with middle C, and everything is built around that. So we have C, E, and G. And if you look at the diagram, it'll show you exactly where to place your fingers. Which fingers do you use? It really doesn't matter, because listen. Does that sound any different than? Does that sound any different than? Does that sound any different than? I really don't want you to do this, but as an example, makes the same sound. So you want to get comfortable with what feels good. I like to play these major chords like with the thumb, my index finger, and my ring finger. Just me. You may find this is more comfortable, this is more comfortable. Whatever feels good, just as long as you're doing the right thing. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the same chord and move it up 4 steps. C, D, E, F. F, A, and C. Look at the chord chart. It'll show you exactly where to place your fingers. The next chord I'm going to show you is a G chord. We're going to take that F and move up 1 whole step here. From F, everything moves up 1 step. G, B, and D. That forms a G chord. What's also interesting about chords, I just want to diverge for a second here, is that I could be playing those 3 notes in any combination, anywhere on the keyboard, and it forms a G chord. In other words, I could put the G here, I could put the B here, and I could put the D up here. Technically, that's a G chord. Sounds a little different, and we'll talk about inversions and stuff later, but the idea of a chord just being that combination of three notes is what I want you to understand now. So, let's review. We went from C, 1, 2, 3, 4, to F, and then the whole thing moves up 1 to G. F, and G. It's important that you learn these chords because those three chords are really the building block of most rock and roll music. It's sort of known as a 1-4-5 progression, or we'll talk about progressions a little bit later, but this really is the meat and potatoes of all rock music. We can base all kinds of songs on this, you know? That kind of a thing. So when you learn this, you can apply this anywhere, and we can apply it into different keys, and we'll do all that later. But for now, let's do this in an exercise where we take these chords and we hold them for beats. Now let's explain that a little bit. We're going to hear a drum rhythm, and while the drum is playing, we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to feel those beats. Every time we go to 4, we're going to repeat that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and again 1, 2, 3, 4. We're using a rhythm that has 4 beats to what we call a measure. Now a measure is very important because that's sort of again the building block of rhythm, and we're just going to be counting to 4 over and over and over again. We're going to hold the chords in series of 2s and 4s. Let me show you what I'm talking about. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 on just C. Then we're going to move it to F and just do 1, 2. Then we're going to go to G and do 1, 2, and then repeat it again an octave higher. C, 1, 2, 3, 4. F, 1, 2. We'll go to G, 1, 2. That's really the exercise. At first you probably want to take it very, very slow, maybe without the backing track, and just get used to running through the chords. Pick a place on the keyboard that feels comfortable, and then just move up through the chords. Count to 2, count to 4 in the appropriate places, and just repeat it. Then when you get up to speed, we'll try it with this drum beat, and I'll do it now. If you feel comfortable doing it now, by all means jump into it. Let's give it a shot and see what we come up with. Okay, the rhythm is like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. F, 2, G, 2, C, 2, 3, 4. F, 2, G, 2. That's basically it. And you can work your way down as well. Let's try that. 1, 2, 3, 4. G, 2. F, 2. C, 2, 3, 4. G, 2. F, 2. C, 2, 3, 4. G, 2. F, 2. C, 2, 3, 4. G, 2. F, 2. Just like that. The backing track that we just used is available on the online lesson support section, so download it, play along with it, practice it slow, and get it together, because we're going to add something to it right now. We talked about chords being constructed, a C chord being a C, an E, and a G. That bottom note being C, that's giving the name of the chord C. There's a reason for that. That's the root of the chord. Just like a tree has a bottom as the root. Kind of defines what the tree is all about. Same thing with a chord. That bottom is the root, and it defines what the name of the chord is. Well, we're going to take the root and use that for the left hand. Probably the easiest left hand accompaniment is to use the root. So as we go through that exercise one more time, I want you to take any finger that feels comfortable and play along with the root of the chord that we use. So in the same situation, C, F, G, and C. Just like that. I want you to follow along with the left hand and start to get comfortable with moving along with both hands. So let's try that with the backing track. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. F, 2, G, 2, C, 2, 3, 4. F, 2, G, 2, C, 2, 3, 4. Let's try it again from the bottom. 3, 4. C, 2, 3, 4. F, 2, G, 2, C, 2, 3, 4. F, 2, G, 2, C, 2, 3, 4. All right, let's go down. C, 2, 3, 4. G, 2, F, 2, C, 2, 3, 4. G, 2, F, So get comfortable with this, practice it, because in the next section we're going to expand upon what you just did and start to play with a band. We're going to get to the riffs in just a second, but before we get there, I want to go through what it takes sort of to warm up and to get yourself prepared to playing some scales. It's very important that you do warm-ups, because what happens is if you don't have blood in your muscles and it's not flowing freely, you'll tighten up. And I keep talking all through the whole lesson plan about when it's very tight you need to stop, because you don't want to do damage to yourself. It is possible, if you practice wrong over a period of time, that you could get tendinitis and even worse, carpal tunnel syndrome, and which is only surgically corrected. Not to scare you, but I want you to know that warm-ups are very, very, very important before you play, because that's how you avoid all that injury stuff. So I'm going to give you an entire list of books and exercises. It'll be on the online support section, lesson support section, and things that you might want to try in addition to what I'm going to give you today. What I'd like you to do is to do these first, the few that I'm going to give you, the couple that I'm going to give you, and then as you master them, take some of them, add on, add to it, add to it, add to it, so, and come back for more, because eventually I want you to be able to do these fluently and do these correctly and do these in time. There's going to be two different exercises that I'll show you today. One will be based on a scale. We're going to get the scales a little bit later. The other one's going to be based on a chord, and we've already covered chords. But again, what this does is it starts to get your muscles together, and it starts to get everything involved in the hand-eye coordination. This is just like being an athlete. It really is. And you want to be able to train, so when you go out to battle, when you go out and play with a band, a lot of times it is a battle, but you go out to battle, that you're prepared. It's very important. I want you to also keep in mind that I'd like you to do these every day if you can. It's important that you have memory in your mind, memory in your muscles, that these things happen all the time. So let's do a couple of these. The very first one is a 5-note scale exercise, and really all you're going to do is you're going to put your hands on the keyboard and you're going to use these particular fingers. This time it's very important you use these fingers, because you want to exercise each and every one of them. So we'll start with C, left hand and right hand on C. Then the second note and second finger, D. Second note, third finger, E. Fourth note, fourth finger, F. Fifth note and fifth finger, G. And just come back down after you do that. Same way we came up. Okay, let's try that again. We start with C, and we go up one, go up another, up another, down. We ran out of fingers, we got to come down now. Now, what's very important with this exercise and the other ones that I'm going to show you is that you remain very fluid and very exact in the time. Everything is in rhythm. Everything is the same length. Everything is all the same, because we want every muscle to get the same treatment. I happen to have this handy-dandy thing here called a metronome. A metronome is a device that pick up at any music store, and you can also download one off of our site, off the online support site of Rock House. And what it does is it essentially, do you hear that? Gives you a rhythm. Okay, yeah, you can use backing tracks, but the beauty part about this is you get a little better. You want to move a little faster? You can go faster and faster and faster, or if it's too fast and you're cramping up, you can slow it down. These come in a couple different varieties. Some have a knob. This one happens to be electronic. But the nice thing about it is that it gives you a number reading of the time. Oops, it also gives you a tone, because you can tune your guitar to it. But we're not doing guitar today. We're doing keyboards, if you haven't figured it out. What's happening here is that this is your reference point. You can write it down, and I encourage you to do that. If we're going to start an exercise, let's say, at 94 beats per minute. It actually tells you how fast it's going. And you write that down, that it's 94. You practice it at 94, and we're going to do that in a second. After you get really good at that, where you can almost do it in your sleep, kick it up a notch or two. Go to 95, go to 96, go to 97. It starts to get challenging. Stop. Practice that for a while, a couple days, a week, whatever it is. Once you master that, go to the next level. So we're going to start, I think that's a good place to start actually. We're going to start at 100. That's a good even keel place to go. I'm just going to do the right hand because I need to hold this one with the left. 2 beats on each, 2. Now let's do 4 beats on each since we're starting out, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. 3, 2, 3, 4. 4, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you kind of get it now? And what's nice about it is it keeps you from cheating. And what I mean by cheating is, I don't know, I have a tendency to start out here, right? If I turn this off and practice, what eventually happens is okay, I'm right in the thing, and by the end of the exercise, I have a tendency to speed up. And I think it's a human nature to do that. So this will keep you in line. This will also help you chart your progress as you go on and add, you know, a faster tempo, and you add other exercises. The next exercise I'd like you to try, based on the same thing, and we're going to use the metronome this time, is the chord exercise I talked about. Okay? Here it is beating. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to take the C chord and we're going to break it up. Okay? Like that. And I think I'm going to give it also, just in the beginning to kind of introduce the exercise, we're going to give it 4 beats per note. And we'll do it with both hands. Again, fingering here doesn't matter a whole lot. I want you to make sure you hit the right notes and that you're consistent. What we ought to do is maybe split the hands up a little bit because they start to run into each other. But we'll do it this way. C, 2, 3, 4. E, 2, 3, 4. G, 2, 3, 4. C on top, 2. Come back down. G, 2, 3, 4. E, 2, 3, 4. C, 2, 3, 4. As with each of the exercises, I'd like you to take those and then move them up a 1 note. So we'll start with C. This one's good because it starts to help you stretch a little bit, and that's going to be helpful later on. But you do C. And then after that, you move it up 1 to D. Also in rhythm with the metronome, okay? Eventually, so it becomes nice and fluid. So I want you to get started with just these 2, okay? And when you get nice and comfortable and you get it up to what you consider a decent speed, go to the site, download some more, and add a 3rd, add a 4th, and you develop eventually a routine in which you start, you do a few of these, you do a few of those, and it gives you something to sort of warm up to before you start jumping into some really fast licks and a lot of fun. If at any point you feel cramping, I'm going to remind you about this. If at any point you feel cramping, you stop, you take that metronome and you drop it down about 20 or 30 notches because you're going too fast. It's very important to remember that you got to be slow. We don't want you guys to have any surgery based on playing piano because it's got to be fun. So do something every day, play a little bit, do a little bit of exercise, and you'll be well on your way. One last thing about chords that I want to talk about is inversions. As the name kind of leads to, inversions means to invert something or turn it upside down. Earlier on, I think I was showing an example of a G chord and how you could play it. It's still a G chord no matter where you play it, as long as it is those 3 notes that we talked about. So that would be considered G, even though in our example it was down here. Well, in terms of inversions, what we're going to talk about is taking very simple C chord in its root position, because the root's on the bottom, its root position, and we're going to take that and throw it on top. Just take it right here and move it an octave up. That's still a C. Well, actually, that's also called first inversion, because the first inversion, we inverted it with the C on top instead of the bottom. Still a C. We can do the same thing with F. Root position, because the F is on the bottom, that's the root, right? And move that on top. That's the first inversion of F. We'll do one more with G since we used that chord before as well. Here's G in its root inversion with the G on the bottom, moving that on top. That G on top, that's G first inversion. It's important to learn inversions because as you're moving around the keyboard, if you can try to keep your hands in the same area, it makes it very easy to move between chords, at least faster anyway. One more inversion I want to talk about is the second inversion. If we take that root, first inversion. Let's do the same thing with the middle note, the E. I'm going to throw that on top. Okay, still a C chord because we have the C, the E, and the G. They're all present there, but with the G on the bottom, that's considered second inversion. And then we start over again with root position, an octave higher. See, we just took that G, put it on top here. It's the mirror of that, just an octave up. C, E, G in root position. So let me just go over that one more time. Root position, go up an octave on the here to here. First inversion. Take that bottom note, put it up top. Second inversion. Take that bottom note, put it an octave up on top. You're back to root position again. In the example that we showed before, we were climbing between the C chord and the F chord. C, F, C, F. Well, we had some time to kind of play between the notes. We had, a couple of beats, 8 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, let's say it was faster than that. Let's say we had to change chords lickety-split. It was some song that the band's going duh, 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 change, change, change. You have to start to learn how to change quicker instead of moving your hand around. You start to get cramped up. Well, if we took the C chord and instead of going from C all the way to F, we went from C to F. Did you see that? I barely moved my fingers and I changed chords. Went from C to F. F, A, C. It's an F chord in second inversion. And if we add the left hand, still sounds like you're going from F to C. Everything's totally fine there. Everybody's being represented. Well, very important because, like I said, as we get faster and faster and moving through notes and moving through chords, you should be able to keep your hand within the same area. It's something you want to practice as we go through the program here. What we may just do is run the backing track real quick, that same one that we did before, and I'll show you how it all fits together. Of course, these chords are moving at the same speed as they were before, not very fast, but it's good to illustrate. And I'll do it just C and F, C and F. And then I'll play around with it. I'll start C maybe in first inversion and go to F. Watch as I go through it. Okay, C, F, C, okay? Now second inversion F, still an F. So much easier on your fingers. Okay, now this time, I'm going to take the C in first inversion, starting there. Still a C, right? And go to F, root position. F on the bottom. C. Very little movement in my fingers again. If you notice, I'm keeping this common note the same, right here. That C up top doesn't even change. Very easy to do. Okay, I'll take it up one more. Second inversion C. The outer ones move, the one in the middle stays the same. Let's add the bass note, the root. So that's inversions, that's all there is to it. Simply just moving those octaves up and down. And where that's really important too is, we talked earlier on about different registers of the keyboard having sort of a different sound, it being kind of light and airy up here and being kind of dark and muddy down here. Well, you may want the chord to be up here because maybe it gets in the way of the singer or it gets in the way of the guitar player or it gets in the way of some other instrument. So you want to be in an area where it sounds the best. And with inversions, you can do that. Okay, I said before, that was where the fun begins. I was wrong. This is where the fun begins. We're doing the blues. I love the blues. Blues is actually the basis of all modern music. It's kind of a bold statement, but you can trace back just about any rock song, any jazz song, to the blues. Blues is probably the original American form of music, and from it really came all the different types of music that we listen to today. So it's very important that you have blues, at least the form and the idea and the concept, in your bag of tricks as you go on to learn modern keyboard playing. First, I'm going to talk about the blues form, because there is a certain progression. We talked about progressions just before, and there's a very specific progression that relates to the blues. You're probably going to hear through your musical journey 1, 4, and 5, and we talked about that a little bit earlier. The true 1, 4, 5 progression is a blues progression, and I'm going to do this in the key of C. It's 12 bars. 12 measures. We talked a little bit about what a bar and what a measure is. Well, in this case, we're doing it in the counts of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That'll be a measure. We actually have 12 of those. That'll be the form, and it just repeats and repeats and repeats. Let me demonstrate. We'll start in the key of C with the C chord, and we're going to hang on C for several bars. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. Just got through 4 of the 12 bars right there. Then we go to the 4 chord. In this case, it's F. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're going to do that for 2 measures. 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to go back down to C, or the 1 chord, for 2 more measures. 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, 3, 4. Then we go all the way up to G. That's the 5. Remember, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll go to G. 1, 2, 3, 4, just for a measure. And we go down to F for 1 measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then for the last 2 bars, because we're up to 10 already, we're going to just stay on C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 12, 2, 3, 4. Let me put it together in its entire form without taking the breaks, and you'll see how it goes together. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, 3, 4, 9, 2, 3, 4, 10, 2, 3, 4, 11, 2, 3, 4, 12, 2, 3, 4. That's it. That's the blues. That's the whole thing. Certainly in terms of the chord progression. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to play that same progression, those same counts, the same way that I move through the chords, or the same way that you find it easy to move through the chords. Use what I showed you before. Use some inversions if you like. If you're not comfortable with inversions yet, make sure you go back later and you get those inversions down, because this is where it starts to really help you as you move through these series of chords. If it's not, just go ahead and use root position all the time. That's totally fine. What's really important in this section is that you follow along and you get the chords right, and you make the changes when we make the changes. But I would definitely encourage you to go back and work with inversions here and to get that together. But let's play the backing track, and let's play along with it. Okay, there's the 1 chord, the C. Now we're going to go to 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. Back to C. 2, 3, 4, 2, 2. Now we're going to G. 1, 2, 3, 4. F. Back down to C. Let's count it all the way through this time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. 3, 2, 3, 4. 4, 2, 3, 4. 5, 2, 3, 4. 6, 2, 3, 4. 7, 2, 3, 4. 8, 2, 3, 4. 9, 2, 3, 4. 10, 2, 3, 4. 11, 2, 3, 4. 12. Now I'm going to do some inversions. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. 3, 2, 3, 4. 4, 2, 3, 4. Watch. 2, 3, 4. 6, 2, 3, 4. Much easier to move around. Now I'm going to go block chords. 2, 3, 4. First root inversion. Root. 2, 3, 4. So that's the blues. And Play with it. Experiment and have fun. Listen to what the band's playing. Try to play along with that. Now, expanding upon that, let's put the left hand in the picture here. We're going to do the same thing as we did before, just use the root as we're playing around with the right hand here. So let's run the backing track and let's take a listen to what happens when we add the root to the equation. Okay, here we go. Notice I got C in the left hand, and we're going to go up to F. Using inversion.